Supergirl Season 2, Episode 18, Ace Reporter. This is the first episode we've had back in almost a full month. I believe it's actually been 3 full weeks. And it was an okay episode. It wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be, because based on the promo, from what I remembered, and I actually went to rewatch the promo for this episode before doing the review. Initially, I thought this episode was going to be like more high stakes. I thought it was going to be about, the main villain discovering Kara's secret and possibly Leena getting close to discovering that secret. And I figured, it's early, it's way too early in the series. Like, even if the villain did know her secret, somehow they would die, or she'd make some sort of, comic book-esque truce. And I was like, okay, this should be a cool episode. And I rewatched the promo after having seen the episode, and I was like, I guess that wasn't really the case. But it was a lot of stuff about, like, the truth and justice and stuff, and it was, like, super vague, and that's why I thought it was about someone discovering Kara's secret, especially the ending sequence in the promo, which was the scene after she was in the car explosion, because it was, like, her jacket blew up, and it was, like, her suit is underneath, and I was like, okay, that's how the person finds out about, her secret, and it made sense, because these bugs are, like, crazy super future bugs, and I was like, it makes a lot of sense that there would be cameras on them, and so her secret would be discovered, and I'd be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And that didn't end up being the case at all. It was actually kind of a normal episode where it focused on the villain. We had some side stories going on, but ultimately I still thought it was a good episode. It did focus on other characters outside of Kara. I don't think Alex was in, like, literally the first scene, and I think that was it. I don't remember seeing her at all throughout the rest of the episode, so I think she was in, like, the first scene. Same with John, actually. They were both only in, like, that first sequence where they're like, yeah, there's nothing happening, like, everything's good, and that was pretty much it, and then Manel doesn't show up for a little bit. I didn't think he'd be in the episode, because it took, like, I think he didn't show up until after, like, the first commercial break, and I was like, oh, he's in this episode. I just, TV shows, sometimes actors just can't be in an episode, and they just aren't. It was just like, I just assumed that, but it had some good stories. It focused a lot on Leena in this episode and her relationship with the guy we think is the main villain in the beginning of the episode, which I thought was a nice way to do that, where it was like, okay, excuse me, not only is he the villain, but he's also done the experiments on himself, and so he is the actual bugs. He's not controlling them. He, like, physically turns into them, which I thought that was a nice little change up. It was like, he's not just the guy who's controlling them and stuff, he is them. So I was like, alright, that's a pretty cool twist. And then as things continued on, we find out that it's not just that he's the villain, it's actually that, like, I think it was like the CFO, she was able to make money by doing some other schemes, and it turns out that she was actually completely in control of him. Or not all the time, but some of the time, because he legitimately wouldn't know when she took over. So he'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about, like when Leena went to talk to him. And I thought that was actually very cool. I was like, that's a cool way to do that. But I think they did a good job there, focusing a bit on Leena and talking about, her backstory before she had to take over Luthor Corps from her brother. And, this former relationship that she had and how things worked out, or didn't work out so well between the two of them. And now that he's had this great success with the thing that they were working on, they kind of have this reconnecting moment where they get to see each other and be with each other. But of course things fall apart because of, villainy. So I like the way they did that story. The other side story in this was actually with Winn, James, and unfortunately I can't think of her name, but Winn's girlfriend. So, it was kind of cool to see her in this episode. She was insanely different. Like, it wasn't that she was super different, it was that she was all over Winn, but it was actually, like, super cheery. It wasn't like, before it seemed more like a seductive sort of thing, and in this episode it was just like, they're just super happy, and it was like super duper campy. So it was kind of weird, because I'm like, half of it's there where they're all over each other, but her being so campy and upbeat was really weird. And it's like, man, it's such a difference from, the episode where the truth is found out and everything, and they've made it work. They saved her brother, and everything just has worked out now. She's just super happy and it's super campy. And I was like, it's really weird seeing her, like, so campy and stuff, and they're just playing around and stuff, and she's like, hey, I'm here to help you guys, and she kind of loses it on that one kid, and I was like, she's about to destroy him. But James ends up stopping her. That leads to a bit of a conflict between her and Winn, where she's like, oh, so you think I'm crazy too? And she kind of loses it on him. So that was a really funny sequence. But of course they kind of have to work out this new, their smaller superhero team. And I kind of like that idea, and I'm curious to see where they might actually take it. Also, they changed the truck. I think before it was like a food truck, and I was like the Star Spangled, like, I forgot what it was. It was something that was like super patriotic, and I feel like it was a reference to something I've seen in DC Comics. I just don't know what it was. It may be the Star Spangled Patriot. That might actually be a character, because that just doesn't surprise me. But I'm like, I feel like that's a reference to something. It's just an old reference, so I kind of remember, but not 100%. So you guys might have to look that up on your own. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure that truck, them changing the name, was a reference to another character or to something else in the DC universe. So I thought that was pretty cool. But ultimately, it was a decent episode. I thought the villain was good. I liked the little twist. The actor, I mentioned this before, we went on break with the show, but the actor who played the villain plays the main character Robbie in the show iZombie, which it was just funny seeing him as the villain, but he wasn't really that bad. Like, they certainly made him seem way more sinister, because like I said, I mentioned I watched the promo again. They certainly made him seem way more sinister, and then in the actual episode, it was like, yeah, he seems like a normal villain who's just hiding a secret. And then it turns out he's not even hiding a secret. He's actually like the innocent party. He just thought he was doing a good thing. So ultimately it turns out he's not bad in any way, shape, or form. And sadly he ends up dying at the end because they have to stop the framework in order to basically save Kara and pretty much save anyone else. Because if they didn't, I'm sure the woman would have got control over it again. So they weren't, they were kind of saving Kara in the moment. But I feel like they would have been saving way more lives, or they did save way more than just her life by actually doing that. So unfortunately it killed him because he'd been bonded with the little bugs. I forgot what they actually called them, but he was bonded with the little robot bugs for such a long time that basically they were like a part of his bloodstream. Even though they could leave his entire body and he'd still physically be there, they bonded with him so much that it basically killed him. Like, he could literally turn, like we saw it when they plug into the computer, he literally completely fades away and then, lands on the balcony to chase after Kara and Mon-El. So I was like, okay, they can leave his body, but he can literally turn his entire body into like these little tiny robots. It's like, okay, that's pretty interesting to see. So of course, when they're ripped out of him 100% and destroyed, basically he's destroyed as well. So that kind of sucked for Leena, but I think that was one of the things that made it a good episode for her character, because they've been doing a lot with her where it's like, is she going to fall into the ways of her family? Her mother is running Cadmus, Lex Luthor is Lex Luthor. So I liked what they did there. I thought that was really cool, where we got a bit of backstory on her and how this guy was also a part of some of the madness she went through with Lex, and some of the stuff her mother went through when Lex was younger, or well, yeah, she was still younger. So I thought it was good what they did with her character, and that was definitely the best part of it, was like, that stuff going on with her and the main mission in general. We get to see Kara do some investigative work, saving some people, got some cool effects out of that, like the car blowing up. That was one of the good things about this episode. This was one of those things where it's like, she didn't save 2 people, and that had a huge impact on her. And it didn't have, like, that wasn't like the whole crux of the episode. It certainly could have been where it's like, the hero loses people, and I feel like they did that already with this show, so that's probably why they didn't do it again. But I thought it was really cool. I was like, okay, so she's in the car with this guy. She's not able to save him because it's an instantaneous explosion, basically. So she survives, but, he dies. And then, of course, the other guy, that was a really good effect. So the first effect is that he just gets disintegrated. Like, things just eat him into nothingness. And I was like, wow, that was really, really intense, and I didn't expect that. And then the other effect that I thought was really cool in that same scene was when they were all flying towards Kara and she just froze him in place. I thought that looked really cool. I was like, that's a nice little effect. It was just like basically ice crystals, but I was like, that looks really cool. So loved that scene for the effects work that they did there. But she went through some crazy stuff where it's like, crap, I lost 2 people. Like, they were right there, and I still couldn't, manage to make it in time. She was able to save Snapper, but she couldn't save the second guy. She couldn't save the first guy that she was in the car with. But I thought they did some good stuff with that, and it could, kind of come back into play later on, but I don't really think it will. But I still thought that was pretty good. She got her job back as a reporter, which I thought was pretty cool. I like the fact that, that didn't last forever, because it was a big question, like, well, if she's not going to end up being a reporter, what is she going to do? Because, of course, she needs a job to have money, because then it gets into, like, some of the other stuff where it's just like, where did they get this money from just to have a random house and, apartments and stuff. So, it was a quick little thing. She got fired. She got rehired. It was pretty simple, and now she's kind of, back on the case. So I thought that was a simple way to do that. It's kind of like what they did with the Mon-El thing, where it's like they broke up, got back together in the Flash part of the crossover, and everything was good. So it was like a really minute thing. It was just like, oh, that's interesting. Let's see where it goes. And then they kind of just reversed this back, and I'm like, okay. I mean, because I thought it was fine before, so it was like, it's kind of weird to have it happen in general, but it does actually make a bit of an impact. So I was like, all right, she got fired because she felt like she needed to put out information that wouldn't be put out in the actual newspaper or in the magazine, but because she actually did the investigative work. And Snapper put it, you didn't care about risk and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, she probably doesn't have as many risks as a normal person would, but he of course doesn't know that. So I was like, you did a good job, and even puts her on the byline and everything. So I thought that was actually kind of cool of him. He has this little moments as the douchebag character. It's like he has this little parts where he's like cool, and he kind of tells you to scram a little. But I thought it was a good episode for that. Like what they did with Leena. The stuff with Jimmy, Winn, and Winn's girlfriend was fairly minor because it didn't have a huge impact. It was like they had an argument. I mean, that was less than the newspaper thing. It was in the same episode. It was like, we're good, we're not good, we're good again by the end. So we'll see how that plays out. I am actually excited to see that where we have two superheroes, kind of the vigilante style with Vigilante or with Guardian. I'm mixing my shows up because Arrow has Vigilante. But we have Guardian, and then we have like another Vigilante. I don't know if she'll get like another superhero name or whatever, but I'm kind of excited to see them do some sort of street level stuff where Kara's not, she's off dealing with like super villains. They deal with like just random robbers and things like that. So I'm actually excited to see where they take that. But I think this was a fairly decent episode. It wasn't the epic one I was looking forward to because I thought for sure, based off of that promo, it was going to be like, holy crap, her secret's found out, and how does she make this work? But it was still a pretty decent episode. And then the ending, we got a pretty good cliffhanger with Manel's mother coming into play, and she has some sort of great proposition for Leena. So kind of looking forward to that. I'm very excited to see how that plays out because once again, the stuff they're doing with Leena as far as being a hero and being a villain, there's so many elements to that, and they're kind of pushing it a lot like the Lex Luthor Clark thing, especially if you watch Smallville, where it's like you have the hero character who's doing all this stuff right around this central person, although Lex we all knew was going to be a villain. With Leena, it's kind of up in the air. But it's sort of the same concept where we have Kara doing all this stuff right around Leena. She's, like the alien detector thing where she, she hit it with her heat vision, which I don't know why that made it work, like half work where it made her seem human. I don't know. But, she's doing stuff like that where, of course, she's lying to her, keeping it secret. And now we have someone who could easily bring in that secret if it's found out, because I don't think she even really knows who Kara is. I would assume if she saw Manel with the glasses, she would still know that's her son, because I don't think he wears the glasses in the last episode, but it's like, it's her son. It's just, it's the comic thing, so who knows how they're actually going to work around that. I don't know if they'll do that or not, but she can bring out that truth to Leena, and we'll just have to see if that changes Leena and Kara's relationship. And I think it'll be interesting just to see how it'll play out in general, because I just feel like that's where it's headed. It's like you have the new main villain come in Manel's mother, and of course her whole goal is to kill Supergirl, and I feel like that's just going to lead to them somehow finding out that Kara is of course Supergirl. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out. The next episode, it seems like it's almost a Saw ripoff based off of the promo. I don't think I'm misinterpreting this one. It seems really obvious. They were like this close away to saying, would you like to play a game? It was like super, super close. But Alex has been captured. She's in a tank that fills up with water. She may or may not die. I highly doubt it. But seems like it should be a pretty interesting episode. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I actually want to know what you guys thought about them actually having a bit of a focus on Leena in this episode. Like, she always has a small part where it's like, oh, they, especially like the first episode, of course, it had to focus on her. And there are other moments, like when we find out that her mother is the one running Cadmus, has those little bits of focus here and there. But this was like nothing to do with the Luthors. This was just like her and her relationship in the past, and her being like, a young genius and stuff like that. And I thought it was cool. It's like, all right, it's a nice way to do a flashback where it's not all focused on, when I was younger, Lex was like this, and I never thought he'd be this. It didn't focus on Lex. It was just Leena Luthor, her past, someone from her past, and, how something that she was working on in the past became this crazy thing for this episode. So personally, I thought it was nice that they had that sort of focus on her, where it was still a bit of the past, because they do mention Lex, but it was mostly about her and something that she'd worked on that's coming to fruition in not the greatest way, as we find out towards the end. But we'll love to know how you guys felt about them focusing on her, at least for, like 1/3 of the story of this episode. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about the episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.